everyone. It has been 2 long years, a whole global pandemic that is still going later, but guess what has drug itself out of the rubble? It's the Sports Knowledgists podcast! Yay! So, that is right. We're back for the Sports Knowledgists podcast. I'm Lexi Brenner.
I'm Audrey Agnew.
I'm Patrick Lyons.
I'm Andrew Mister.
Fantastic. All right, so getting right into topic number 1. The Olympics start today.
Tonight.
Yes.
Not when you're watching this video, but...
Right?
It
But
already
today,
happened.
the day we are filming this is February 3rd.
If something
that's
crazy
the day.
happened, we don't know about it.
There you
Wasn't
go.
that crazy?
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah, so it's the Winter Olympics, obviously, because it is February. What are you guys most looking forward to?
I am just looking forward to, learning a ridiculous amount about some random sport that I've never watched before. I did a lot with the Summer Olympics this summer. I got really into water polo for a couple days. And,
Water polo is crazy.
Water polo is so crazy.
They'll, drown you.
Yeah.
That's part of the sport.
Yeah, they, actively try to, push you down.
Yeah, that's very scary.
Yeah, and so I just want to, get really into one random winter sport. I want to get super into, skeleton or something, something equally terrifying as water polo.
There are 3 things I'm looking forward to in the Winter Olympics. The first one, insane Russian hockey players who I don't know their names and cannot pronounce. The second thing I'm looking forward to is, and I don't know if this is true or not, but the American dads who won curling last year, I think they're back, and I can't wait. And then I am looking forward to, this looks like it's going to be Shaun White's last Olympics. So
He's still going?
He's still
I didn't
going.
know that.
Yeah, so to send off the flying tomato into the kitchen or something.
Whatever the expression is.
Hurtful.
To go back to curling, my dad's favorite Winter Olympic sport, whether he admits it or not, is curling. And, like you said, it's like a team of dads. I'm like, why can't my dad just join the Olympic curling team? He watches
should.
enough of it. I'd say he's qualified, right?
2 years ago, in the previous Sports Knowledgists podcast, I had a fixation on Trevor's father because he watched the podcast. And you, by accident, mentioned your dad, so... Mr. Brenner. Yeah.
Yeah. Just join the curling team. Okay.
Yeah,
and
that's what I meant, Lexi.
All right. So another, major sporting event coming up in the next few weeks is the Super Bowl.
What's that?
The Super Bowl between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. I don't know what number Super Bowl it is. I'm not very good with Roman numerals, so don't know what number it is.
know?
But
This podcast is really good at research.
I bet I could work backwards and figure it out.
Work backwards.
But, do I know?
When was the
off the
first
top of
Super
my head?
Bowl?
No.
It's Super Bowl
60
56.
something. Super Bowl 56?
LVI.
LVI. Okay, perfect. So
My dad is older than the Super Bowl.
my dad's the same age as the Super Bowl.
I love
Whoa.
We're learning so much about your dad already.
My dad's gonna watch this and be like, Lexi, what the heck?
Oh, don't let your dad watch this. Your dad watch this?
So, who do we think and who do we want to win the Super Bowl? I don't know who I think is going to win just because, being a Patriots fan, I don't really know much about other teams that aren't the Patriots. However, I want the Cincinnati Bengals to win for no logic or reason besides the fact that my internship this summer is in Cincinnati, so, home team this year.
I don't think that you can get a bad version of the Super Bowl because I think these are 2 fun teams that there's not a lot of active hatred for that there has been with Tom Brady in the last few years. That said, I'm all in on the Rams. The Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is not good, and you're going against Aaron Donald and Von Miller, who are 2 of just the greatest and largest defensive men to play in football history. They're going to eat Joe Burrow in a way that's going to be really unpleasant for him.
Oh, gosh.
I agree with your points on the Bengals offensive line simply not being good and the Rams defensive line being very good, which is the big reason why I think the Rams are going to win. But I also agree with Andrew in the sense that, there's no bad outcome here. This is probably the most likable Super Bowl matchup in years because, the Rams have, Matthew Stafford, who's such a likable quarterback who was, losing for years and years and years, and now he finally has his shot, so, he's an easy guy to root for. But the legend of Joe Burrow is just so entertaining, how quickly he's taken off and how much everybody loves him. That would be a fun thing to see.
I want
play
you to
out.
think about it like this. Since his hit, the brutal hit he took against UFC in that game, he has not lost a postseason game yet. That man throws tutties and smokes cigars like it's no one's business, and that's terrifying. He's 25, 26?
If that.
There's comparisons to him to, the next Tom Brady, and, it's obviously a little early to start making those, but if the Bengals win this game, you have to start thinking about those kind of comparisons, because that's a really young, offensive core he has. You just fix the offensive line. Who's going to stop you?
Right.
Because the Rams are all in this year. A lot of these players are going to go. The Rams won't be back.
What are your thoughts, Audrey?
Yeah, who do you think? Between, Audrey, if you had to watch a cage match between a Ram and a Bengal, who would win?
Okay, so not to bring up the previous podcast once again, but I was very afraid that Lexi would ask me a Trevor-esque question, which is he would ask me, who's in the Super Bowl, and I literally could not have answered that question at all. I literally would not have been able to answer that question. I think that probably a Tiger would win, but Cincinnati
There we go.
is way less cool than LA, I feel like.
Okay,
Ohio.
fair enough.
I feel like Ohio
Fair
kind of
enough.
sucks. I've never been to Cincinnati, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Neither
Ohio,
have
get in the
I,
comment
but-
section.
Lexi will be there.
I
She'll
will be there.
Ohio, in a vacuum, does not have a lot going for it.
Yeah, so maybe they should win just because I feel like
They
there's
could
not
use a
lot going
win.
on.
They also have cooler uniforms, but
The one
There you
Ohio
go.
person is going to be in the comment section.
I do like the purple and gold thing that they have going on, or purple and yellow.
Keep going.
who?
Keep talking.
Is that
Which
not the
team's
LA
purple?
Rams?
Keep talking.
Blue?
They're blue.
I thought
But-
they were purple.
Nice.
I think that's the Lakers.
Or are you thinking of
Oh.
LSU?
It's
I don't know
okay,
what I was
Audrey.
thinking of. I really don't. I thought they were purple
Big-
and gold.
However, I do like.
Audrey's
I
a
do-
Audrey's a
Y'all
big fan of
shaking
Mardi
his
Gras
head.
here. Alright? Purple, gold on green.
I really did think that. I really did. I wasn't even joking.
Alright, speaking of football, another thing that happened this week was Tom Brady has retired from the NFL. So, what do we all think about that? Okay, so we know what Audrey thinks about
No,
that.
I feel. I mean, once again, I feel nothing about
I feel nothing, period.
No, but I just
I just thought-
I just don't like Tom Brady. So,
I'm
but not because of anything having to do with football.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer to the two Patriots fans in the room first, because
Yeah.
you're gonna say nice things.
I mean, I wasn't surprised. The writing was on the wall at this point. But the one thing, I made note of, and, this was going all over social media, so, you guys have probably heard about this, but, in his little farewell message that he posted on Instagram, didn't even mention the Patriots. I was like, come on, dude. You were with them for, what, 20-something
20
years?
years.
More than my entire lifetime, and you're not even going to be like, okay, I'm retiring. Your team made me who I am, but I'm just not going to say anything.
Is there beef?
Apparently, Robert Kraft was pissed.
Yeah, I mean, I would be too if I was Robert Kraft.
Is there beef?
Yeah.
Arby's,
Where's
where's
the
the beef?
But yeah, so, Tom Brady, some may say greatest of all time.
I think the
He's
debate
done.
is pretty set for a
Retired.
while. I mean,
Yeah.
he's gonna be one of the greatest sports players in our lifetime.
Mhm.
I think the crazy thing is he at one point had some comment about how he said he wasn't gonna retire until he started sucking. It doesn't suck.
Yeah.
He might win the MVP this year.
The Bucks came back from 27-3 in this last game, and but for a Matthew Stafford Cooper Cup pass, we're right there.
It's a good one.
So he could come back. I think it's just issues with the Buccaneers, and I think he just wants to be a dad. A lot of what the stuff I've seen
Yeah.
from him recently is I think he just likes that embarrassing dad energy, and just wants to be that.
Does he
I
think he's sucking because he's not winning, explicitly?
don't think so.
Being
He's like,
the
oh,
best.
didn't make the Super Bowl this year?
I
Guess
mean,
I'm gonna
he's
retire.
arguably the best player in the league this year.
Yeah.
One of you were just saying he should have won MVP.
I,
That
I do wonder how much of his decision to retire now, as opposed to like after 2 years ago when the Patriots were kind of underwhelming, is like the Buccaneers have a lot of roster issues, and like they might not be able to bring back their same team next year. So
Cough, Antonio Brown.
so I wonder how much
Did
of
somebody just say Antonio Brown?
I think Lexi coughs. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want me to get you like a tissue?
So I wonder how much of his decision to retire now was like, we're not going to be able to bring back a competitive roster next year. I don't want to deal with that. But that being said, he's the GOAT, undisputed. He's been bringing the Patriots Super Bowl since before I was born. Like there's no denying that he's just potentially the greatest team athlete that has ever stepped on any field or court or anything.
Disrespect to Airbud.
I said one of.
One of.
I mean, you can't argue with
You should have specified
Airbud.
human there, and then I would have.
You can't argue with Airbud as like a multi-sport phenom.
Come on.
Like
He
no
does
one,
it all.
no
I don't
one's on
think-
his level.
You know what? Actually, I don't think Airbud's a team player. All right. So
Hey!
I am pretty-
See, Lexi, now we can name the title something to do with Airbud, and that'll get all the clicks. And then we can talk about Tom
Yeah.
Brady. We'll reel them in with Airbud.
Yeah, exactly. But our last piece of football news for the episode today, the Washington football team is no longer the Washington football team. They are now the Commanders.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Is this your first time hearing this news?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. I don't have a problem with the name.
What was the one that we wanted?
We talked about Commanders. We were a big fan of Monuments, I think.
Someone said Generals.
Generals
Oh
is
no,
fine.
I didn't like that one.
Yeah.
You gave me another one.
There's the Armada, maybe.
Yeah, I like that
The Armada
one.
was
I
cool.
thought that would be a lot cooler.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's is this a dumb question?
It's
What's
a
Armada?
fleet of ships.
Oh.
I don't mind Commanders as a name. Like, if I was born into this world and my parents were like, we root for the Washington Commanders, I'd be like, sure.
Okay.
Like, I'm
It's
okay
not
with
the worst
that.
one by far.
But I think the way they went about, like, unveiling this and, like, the logo and the uniforms are just kind of silly. Like, there isn't a lot of creativity in it.
Logo on the screen here.
Yeah. You know what? No, actually, we're gonna do some editing
We're
right
gonna-
here. We're
we're
gonna put
gonna
it over
test
Patrick's
Lexi's
face.
editing.
So this right here is the current Washington Commanders photo. Right? It's just a W. But now I want you to look at the Washington Capitals logo, our hockey team. Right? Notice how it's like the eagle, but it's also a W. It's almost like they spent more than 2 seconds trying to make this logo. Let's go back to the Commanders logo. See how much infinitely worse this is than that other one?
Mr.
Well, maybe
you are
they'll-
editing this part for me.
Well, maybe they'll redesign it in the future. Probably just trying to get something out. Like, how long have they been nameless?
Like,
Like
2
2
years.
Exactly.
Which confuses me because, like, obviously I understand why they needed to change their name, but at the same time, why would they change it before having a replacement name?
Because they really, really didn't want to change it.
Yeah.
Until
Yeah.
they
Like they were really
absolutely-
aggressively pressured.
Yeah,
But
into
they
it.
honestly-
really couldn't have come up with Commanders in like a few
Well,
weeks.
and
rather
that's
than 2
my
years.
issue with the name change, because like you had 2 years to come up with something, and the best you could come up with was Commanders.
Exactly.
Like it just
That's
has
what I'm
no
saying.
personality.
The-
It's just so like I just have
It's
such
like
a
we
hard
get it, you know, like the DC team.
right, and it's like Commander like. The Commanders, if you're looking at like a battlefield, they're not even the ones who are like fighting. They're
Right.
just the ones telling you what to do. I just
Right.
feel like
That's
it's
a
just
good point, actually.
like,
I didn't think
it's
of
just
that.
such a bland choice to have been working that long on coming up with a name.
Right, like, I know the Patriots exist, but, like, the Washington Revolutionist. Like,
Right.
already kind of crazier word.
That sounds like the name of the history class I'm in this
Right.
semester. American Age of Revolution.
Yeah.
I also just have an issue with the uniform. Like, the burgundy and gold one looks great. It's a classic one. But the white and the black one, they don't look good. They look like they belong on a high school team. There's not a lot of imagination on it. It seems like they did one draft and were like, this is good.
Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe I get from the whole thing. It
Yeah.
just seems like they didn't put a whole lot of effort
Dan
into
Snyder
making
putting
this
effort
team.
into something, not when he's under multiple investigations.
Moving on to a sport that is much better than football, tennis.
I was gonna say curling.
Tennis. So the Australian Open was last month, and previously the big three of Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, and Rafael Nadal were tied at 20 Grand Slam titles, which is the most of all time. But then, guess who won the Australian Open and moved up to 21?
Patrick Lyons.
Was it?
Yes.
I'll let
was
Audrey
it-
guess.
Was it Raphael.
You are correct. It is Rafael Nadal. He
Big,
now has,
big Ninja Turtle fan here.
Yes. He now has 21 major titles, and that is the most of all time. And in my opinion, that just means that Roger Federer has to win 2 more, because he, in my mind, no matter what, is always the greatest of all time. But so that brings up the debate: who really is the greatest of all time? If you're not just by going on the numbers, you know what I mean?
Brady.
Okay.
Give Tom Brady a
Okay.
tennis
Yeah, is
racket.
this just about tennis?
Yes.
Serena.
Well, men's tennis, but yes, I agree.
I have no opinion.
Okay, cool.
I disqualified Novak Djokovic for all the vaccine stuff.
Yeah.
I'll get on my liberal
Oh, no,
BS
is
for a
he a
second.
weirdo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So he did not play the Australian Open this year because he was not vaccinated, but it wasn't as simple as that. He claimed to have a medical exemption, and then he got to Australia and they wouldn't let him in because of visa issues, and then he was like, oh, but I just had COVID. But then, when he said he had COVID, he was at all these different events and stuff, so people were just, not really lining that up. And then eventually they kicked him out of the country.
he also threw
Yeah.
threw a house party early
Yeah.
on in the pandemic,
But see,
and
that's the thing,
everyone tested positive from
That's
it.
the thing. So Djokovic's whole pandemic has made it very clear where he stands about the whole pandemic thing. And it's not if I didn't have this medical exemption, I would get vaccinated. It's no, he's made it clear he just is not getting vaccinated, does not want to get vaccinated. So that's his own fault, because now Rafa passed you in majors.
Yeah,
so.
he had his opportunity if he'd just
Yeah.
gotten vaccinated to pass the other 2 or prevent Rafa from passing him at the very least. So it's his own fault, and I think that absolutely counts against him.
Why did he even go?
Because he thought they'd let
Because
him
he
in.
thought they'd let him in. He thought he'd get special treatment because he's the number 1 player in the world.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
I mean, he's still number 1 in the rankings, but he did not win the last Grand Slam.
I will say, to counter why Roger Federer is going to be the GOAT. When I was 6, I got a tennis racket that had Roger Federer on the cover of the tennis racket.
You can't really
Nice.
argue with that.
So,
Weird.
Switzerland.
That's what they do. Mine had Venus and Serena on it. My first tennis racket.
That's cool.
Mine
And it
was-
said their names on the side too. Pretty
That's
cool.
crazy. Mine was just pink.
I never had a tennis racket. My brother played tennis for a little bit, but I never played.
I went to 1 tennis practice in high school, and I hated it. Hated it. And then I don't even think I got off the roster. I think I just stopped showing up.
That's a good move.
No, it's bad. Kids,
Retire when you're on top, you know?
I was never on top.
Retire when it stops being fun.
Yeah, there you go.
Audrey just wanted to play tennis and not scoring her points so that she could always have love.
You know, I was gonna say
Because
no.
in
I was
tennis,
scoring.
0 is love.
Yep. I'm sorry, I just kicked you.
That's alright, it didn't
Well.
hurt.
And now we're wrapping it up.
Thank you guys for humoring me and talking about tennis for a little bit. But anyways, and thank you guys for watching the return of the Sports Knowledgists podcast. That's
Smooth
gonna
transition.
Yeah, that's gonna wrap up the first episode of 2022.
Dude, should we high five about this?
Should we kiss about this?
And we'll be back for some more episodes.
Lexi did not even humor me. She was just like, no, we should not kiss about it.
Yay!
Yay! Guys, we're
Done.
so good at this.
That
Should
was-
we go into
That was
professional
pretty long.
podcasting?
That was- Okay, I feel like we should clap.
Okay.
Okay, that did not
One
work.
person should clap.
Never
Alright.
said that.
Alright. Audrey, clap. Okay. Oh.
That's a good one.
Guys, I almost have it. I swear.
One of those will work. One of those will work.